United Healthcare CEO gunned down in broad daylight in New York City. Good morning, everybody. JT here, Serenity Farms prepping. By now, you've heard about the assassination of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, aged 50, in New York City yesterday by a masked gunman. There are many questions developing from this case, and many more that, as they answer themselves, veer off in a direction that is all too common among the political elites and the massive corporations that control our lives. I'm going to read from Gary Franchi on Next News Network. He does a lot of good reporting, but I got about a minute and a half that I'm going to read for you. It is incredibly tragic what happened to Mr. Thompson, and my heart breaks for his wife's two sons, friends, and family. However, what's also tragic is that we have to keep our mouths shut about how we really feel about it for fear of being called insensitive for not allowing the family to grieve. Not speaking up and saying that there needs to be a serious investigation into everything he was involved in will make sure that this situation can happen again. Some random gunman with a silencer in the middle of Manhattan, gun-free zone, does not have the ability to shoot someone in public and escape so freely on a city-rented bicycle without being found over 12 hours later. It's no secret he was in a very prominent position in our healthcare system and is directly linked with the government and elites. There were many people who needed for him not to be an issue with the DOJ investigation, and even more who needed him to keep quiet on the many ways the healthcare industry is colluding with the government to take advantage of Americans. While this situation is devastating, in order to really give Thompson and his family the justice they deserve is to expose it all. This should never have happened, and our government, Dems and Republicans, are out of control, especially in healthcare. The violent and maniacal rhetoric blasted daily by mainstream media and Democrat pundits normalizing two assassination attempts on Trump have created this situation where it's now commonplace to just take out someone without any question. So there you also saw a picture of Thompson. Now, a lot of people don't realize United Healthcare was under investigation by the DOJ, and United was aware of the DOJ investigation since at least 2023. Instead of disclosing this material investigation to investors or the public, United Health insiders sold more than 120 million of their personally held United Health shares. In the next 4 months between learning about the DOJ investigation and the investigation becoming public, United Health's chairman, Stephen Hemsley, sold over 102 million of his personally held shares, and Brian Thompson, the deceased and CEO of United, sold over 15 million of his personally held United Health shares. Okay, the death aside, United was one of the worst healthcare companies to deal with. They use AI to process claims, and 90% of them are wrong. They have erroneous denials, purposeful obfuscation on claims processing, general bad behavior, and they put a lot of everything back onto the patient to maneuver through the intentionally complicated wording and processes of trying to have claims approved. Apparently, Thompson had many enemies. And this one lady who works in a Georgia United Healthcare office said she wasn't surprised by what happened at all. I don't think a lot of us are surprised by what happened, regardless of what the reason was. And our seeming indifference to these acts, whether someone thinks, or even if they were completely justified, which I'm not saying is the case here, we as a society have become, dare I say, accepting of incidents like this. A small part of some people even believing and stating openly that, well, they deserved it. They were screwing everyone else. And while I do believe that actually is true in certain circumstances, I cannot say that for this, so I will not. But I want to talk about some very odd, unlikely issues with the assassin. Okay, he was riding an e-bike which had to be rented from the city of Manhattan. So there'll be a record of it, regardless of whether he used his own credit card or one provided for him. There will be a record. Manhattan is besieged with cameras and surveillance on their citizens 24/7. So there's that. Many of those cameras also do retina scans, and the shooter's eyes were clearly visible at all times. So there is potentially that. Now, a lot of people are remarking on the firearm, which had a suppressor, which is known as silencers for tards. The firearm and the suppressor are both illegal in New York City. Another topic. Now, a lot of people are saying that it appears that the firearm jammed. But a lot of people with much more knowledge of firearms and ammunition than I believe that it didn't jam, but that he was using a special kind of ammo that doesn't have quite the kick of conventional ammo, thus a little bit less noise, but it also doesn't eject out of the firearm with the same force as other rounds, needing to re-rack before every shot. That remains to be seen. Now, reports are stating that the 3 rounds in Mr. Thompson had words written on them. Depose, defy, and D something else. I'm sorry, I forget. But those, were they written with magic marker, pen, scribed in? Are there fingerprints on those rounds? The shell casings. Every shell casing has its own signature. Those can be traced back even to where they were bought or provided from. The shooter didn't pick those up. Now, as the shooter escaped down an alleyway, apparently a water bottle and candy bar wrapper were found where the assassin had been lurking in wait while he was waiting for Thompson to come out of the hotel very, very early in the morning. How did he know Thompson would be leaving so early? He didn't get there at 4 a.m. and just sit there waiting endlessly on a high traffic road between two cars where he stepped out. No, you get there with just enough time to do a quick survey, get in position to make your move. The longer you hang out somewhere, the longer people see you. If he had shown up an hour before and was standing there with his mask covering his face for an hour and a half or something on a warm day in New York City, people would have been suspect. I suspect we'll hear witnesses come forward stating to that effect that they thought it unusual that a person was standing there with that type of mask, not your COVID scam useless mask. This will look like a neck gaiter that you just pull up in it. Maybe. Now, if he had been standing there for an hour without his mask, then there should be video footage and witnesses who saw what he looked like, especially if he was like this the entire time, which he is in the surveillance camera footage we do have, likely from the hotel's entrance. Which would also not be 100% unusual, but red flag-ish. Now, the candy bar wrapper and the water bottle, I'm not sure how they have already determined that those could have been the shooters. Obviously, they'll do a test on those, and if there's someone in their database with that particular DNA, it will come up. But if the guy's not a criminal, then there won't be anything, but they'll have one to compare to later. So he took off down an alley on his bicycle. It's been a day or so now, and if there are any leads or hits, we haven't heard anything. But there are many saying that this was a professional hit. Some of the peculiarities about this, the carelessness with the e-bike, the type of firearm used, the hood, the mask, the being right where you needed to be, right at the correct time without advanced knowledge of the schedule, the candy bar wrapper, the water bottle. That doesn't tell me experienced person. I'm not a professional hitman, and just common sense tells me I don't do those things because I have a brain. Now, on the other hand, it could very well be all to send the authorities off on a wild goose chase. He could have had the water bottle and the candy wrapper covered with someone else's prints that he conveniently dropped on the ground. The e-bike could also be a credit card for the same person whose prints might be on the wrapper and the water bottle. The firearm will likely be found very soon and may very well be traced back to the person with the water bottle and the candy wrappers and the e-bike. Suppressor, that could be traced. It could very well be setting up someone else to take the fall. And then again, this person could have been hired by people who believed that this person was as good as he extolled to be. Now, it's no secret that the government regime and healthcare have been colluding for many years to keep you sick. Healthy people don't make money. They've also been colluding to condense all the healthcare options we once had into a single entity. That was what traitor Hussein Obama, Kenyan Mike's bitch, was trying to do with Obamacare and death panels. Yeah, they allowed a top 2 or 3 healthcare companies to remain in business, but they were all working together, like the top 6 or 7 companies that control the media and the food industry. Now, as a side note, when I started my career in law enforcement in 1983, it was Empire was the coverage. And eventually, after I retired, it became United Healthcare. So I actually have the same company covering my health insurance as Thompson was the CEO of. And while I've never had anything denied, and I had lots of opportunities to use it during the course of my career, but those were instances where they could not deny it, because if you were injured on the job, they didn't have any choice. But anyone who's ever gone to the ER for a visit, I went 2 summers ago, I had a tick in the behind my knee, engorged, and no matter what I did, I could not get it out. So I went there, they pulled it out, gave me a 10-day course of some medication, and the bill, I was there 15 minutes tops, and the bill was just over $3,000. The nurse in the ER literally he had to cut me a little to get it out, and then pulled out the tick with a pair of tweezers. So after they did all my blood pressure and oxygen and all that stuff, which took 5 minutes, he came in, and 5 minutes later he had it out. It took longer for me to wait for them to deliver the 10-day dose of pills from the hospital pharmacy than I was there total. But over $3,000. Ridiculous. And just imagine how surgeries are. We all know the horror stories. But anyway, expect to see Congress get involved in this to make all sorts of protections now for the elites, and to try and cover all the political scum who do the insider trading. If you remember, just a day or two ago, Josh Hawley was testifying before Congress that he wants to immediately ban any member in Congress or the Senate from being Fancy Nancy 4 Martini Breakfast Pelosi, the GOAT of insider trading. So, was Thompson involved in collusion and insider trading, which is what the DOJ was investigating? And since when does the DOJ actually investigate anything sincere or true? So let's see where this all goes. If I hear any updates, you will as well. Spread and share. But that's all I got for now. JT, signing out.